Two of the most basic questions we can pose in the context of research relate to its reliability and its validity. And these are the subject matter of this video. Market research is reliant on data. This can be primary data or from secondary sources. Primary data is data we collect specifically for the research activity, or secondary sources are data collected for other purposes which can be used for some research. Information is vital for market research and effective decision making. So we collect the data and then we process the data using some sort of analytical techniques. We process the data into information which can then be used for decision making. The information needs to be assessed in terms of its reliability and validity. As I said, these are two very important issues that must be considered in the context of research. Reliability and validity determine the success and accuracy of market research. So we can't get far from these two questions. We must bear them in mind and we must apply them to our research. We must assess our research in the context of reliability and validity. Let's start by looking at reliability and have a few words about this. Information must be reliable to determine its accuracy. Reliability is research that is error-free and consistent. It's reliable. It's error-free and consistent. And if it is error-free and consistent, it will be accurate and therefore reliable. If research is repeated over a number of times, to be reliable, the research will produce the same results in repeated trials because it's reliable. It's a reliable method. So it should produce the same results if conducted over and over. The idea behind reliability is to assess the research suitability regardless of the sample size. It is simply looking at the research and looking at its reliability, looking at its techniques and its approaches to ensure that it's error-free. Will the research produce the same results to a wider population or geographic location? Now, that's a question that needs to be addressed. If the population is extended, if the research is extended, will it still be reliable? Will the techniques be reliable? And this requires really honesty on the part of the researcher. It may be that techniques were used for small-scale research which perhaps need to be extended and need more control in a wider context. Reliability can be assessed in regards to primary research as the research is relevant and produced for the purpose of the research questions. So reliability is facilitated, if you like, through primary research. Primary research, don't forget, is research that's specific to answer the questions posed. It's research that's conducted first-hand. Unlike secondary research, which relies on published data or published information, or information collected for a different purpose. So primary research should be reliable. It's important to check that it is, but it should be, because that's why the information or the data was collected. Secondary research can be unreliable as it is a form of secondary sources and not specific to the research question. So secondary research, the data is not addressed at the question perhaps being posed. It was collected for a different purpose, perhaps in a different time period. And therefore, the issues of reliability are more suspect with secondary research. But with primary research, the data is collected specifically to answer the questions posed in the research. So with primary research, it should be more reliable. Now let's look at validity. Well, validity answers the question, is the research measuring what it's supposed to measure? Is the research focused on what it's saying it is focused on? Is it dealing with the issue that it's posing? So is it measuring what it's supposed to measure? Validity is an important factor in market research. A research is unsuccessful if it does not address the main purpose of the research. It's important that the key points of the research are addressed, and that the data and the precise research is targeted on the questions that are being posed. So validity is looking at making sure that the research is answering the research question that was posed. Validity determines the extent to which information collected is intended for its use. So it makes sure that the information or the data collected is reliable and can be used to answer the question that's posed. In order to measure research is valid, it must be assessed in line with research activities. So in order to ensure that research is valid, it must be assessed in line with the research objectives. The research objectives should be clear, they should be obvious, and the process of the research should be targeted on those objectives, perhaps to answer a specific question. Research can be reliable but not valid. On the other hand, if research is valid, it can be reliable. So this may sound like doublespeak, but it's possible to have research that is reliable. It can be reproduced over and over, but it's not answering the research question. It's not meeting the objective. On the other hand, if research is valid, it can be reliable. If it's answering the research question, then it can be reliable, it can be reproduced over and over. Reliability and validity are both important components in assessing market research, and both should be taken into account. These are very important concepts, and it's important that you have a clear understanding of what they mean in the context of research. That's all we're going to do in this short class. I'm going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.